This model of an MAN TGS truck is fitted with a big Palfinger PK100002 loading crane, which is a big crane in the 100-ton metre class with a maximum capacity of 30 tonnes. The truck is in the colours of Kibag, the Swiss construction group. The model has been commissioned by Heavy Transport Models and is made by Conrad and comes in a standard Conrad branded box. There's no information provided about the real machine or the model, and when you pull out the inner wrapping it's foam bagged cardboard which protects the model well. Included in the box is the model itself and a small bag of parts which have to be fitted. As usual with a Conrad model, you have to separate the mirrors and the roof aerials from their moulding, and a sharp modelling knife does the trick. On this MAN truck, the passenger mirror is made of two pieces which you have to just assemble together, and then it just presses into holes that are formed within the cab. The fit is pretty good, so usually the mirrors stay in without too much of a problem. The other part to fit is the roof aerial. There's only one to fit, and this can either go in easily or not, but on the review model it just pressed in easily into place. The thread on the Palfinger winch is taped into place, so you just need to peel that off and gently pull all the tape off the winch, and then that frees up the winch thread. The hook and winch pulley is already fixed to the thread, so the only thing to do is to reeve it up over the double pulley system fixed to the boom. There's no guidance for this, but probably the best arrangement is to run it under the first pulley and then up and over the second pulley, and then run the thread to the end of the boom. And then the pulley can be clipped into one of two positions towards the end of the boom, and here we're clipping it right on the very last of the boom sections. Looking at the detail of the MAN truck chassis, the rear transmission and suspension is all modelled well, but the transmission drive shaft gets to axle 2 but doesn't go right through to the gearbox. At the front, the steering mechanism is modelled for functionality. The tyres are different on the front and rear axles, and the wheels are pretty detailed, with the wheel nuts clearly visible. The MAN TGS cab looks the part with a visor and colour-coded door mirrors, and it looks suitably tough with the stabiliser arrangement at the front. The cab graphics look sharp enough with the Kibag logo on the truck doors, and the MAN model number is also clearly rendered. The drop-down sides of the load box are represented by silver paint, as are the hinges for the drop-down mechanism, but they're not painted quite as sharply on the review model. At the rear there's some good detailing with a beacon light, towing hitch and wheel chocks, and the lights are painted. But one detail which is missing is the number plates, which would have added an authentic look to the model. The Palfinger loading crane is a heavy piece of kit, and the cream-coloured parts are all in metal. However, the telescopic sections and some of the surrounding equipment is all in plastic. But the general effect is pleasing because the details are good and there's some decent graphics on the loader arm. Each telescopic section of the crane has its own hydraulic cylinder, and even though there's no hoses modelled, the overall effect looks busy and complicated. Putting the truck through its paces, it rolls very well in a straight line, as you would expect. And the MAN TGS chassis is a typical Conrad example, with some float in the rear axles to represent suspension, and the link steering does work quite well. You can set it to a hard pose, but it won't really roll along a tight curve because the wheels foul onto the wheel arches. If you want to take a look at the engine, you can tilt the cab forward, and it just goes forward far enough so that the angle of the cab can stay tilted. And there's a metal engine underneath, and then you can just close the cab back up, and the load box at the back just pops off, and then you can see that there's a fifth wheel, although it's mounted very low, so it might be difficult to find a trailer that fits that connection. There are 6 stabilisers on the truck, and they all work. The ones at the front can just be unscrewed and then put down, and the visible pistons have screw threads rather than smooth walls. The stabilisers at the Palfinger are 2-stage and they just pull out, and then the stabiliser legs just rotate and clip into place, and you can then extend the pad at the end just by unscrewing. One thing to note about the front stabiliser beams is that they are all plastic, so they are really quite flexible, although they are strong enough to support the model off its wheels if you want. At the rear, the 2-stage stabiliser beams are similar, although the outer one is in fact metal, and just like the others, the pads are lowered by unscrewing. With all the stabilisers set up, it's time to open up the Palfinger. It's quite clever in the way that it unfolds, and the cylinders on it are stiff enough so that it will hold any position that you want to set, And if you fix the winch rope to the end of the boom, you just need to keep making sure that there's enough thread unwound so that the hook doesn't pull off as you move the boom about. Once the crane is opened up on the main boom lift cylinders, you can then move to the telescopic parts of the boom, and these just pull out quite smoothly. The telescopic parts are all plastic, but they're made to good tolerances, so there's enough friction between them so that they don't slide too easily. This means that they can be posed at pretty well any angle without closing themselves up, although they're not necessarily so tight that they'll hold their position if there's a heavy load on the hook. But if you want to make the truck look impressive, you can open up all of the 9 telescopic sections, and then you get quite a large model that's over 50 centimeters high. The rotation mechanism on the Palfinger is really very good indeed. It's rock solid with no rocking whatsoever, and it smoothly turns to hold any pose that you want to set without flapping about. Another part that's included that you can fit to the model is a rope guide that fits to one of the intermediate boom sections. It just clips reasonably tightly onto the boom. With the boom up, you can become a crane driver and operate the winch with your thumb, and then the hook just goes up and down as you wish. Another set of options available is that the winch pulley can clip onto one of 2 positions on the boom, either at the end or one of the intermediate positions, and there's also a fixed hook that's supplied with the model, and that can just clip onto one of the 2 positions as well. This is a really good looking and interesting model by Conrad. The level of detailing is good, with a high level of functionality of all the moving parts. In the colours of Kibag, this is a rare limited edition model, and it's highly recommended.